Bloomberg Audio Studios. Podcasts, radio, news.
We must get to defense tech startup Anduril being selected and having selected Ohio as the location of a new manufacturing facility that will produce tens of thousands of autonomous systems and weapons annually. All this part of a plan to become a key provider of drones and other technology for the U.S. military. Let's bring in our own Ed Ludlow, who's in rather cold Ohio right now. Ed.
Thank you, Caroline. At full capacity, Arsenal 1 will be 5 million square feet. It will create 4,000 jobs over 10 years. And Anduril's putting $1 billion of its own cash into the project. Who better to discuss that with than with one of the co-founders of Anduril, Luckey, also Chief Technology Officer.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's incredibly aggressive, the timeline to manufacture the first phase of this site and then start production mid-2026. How big a factor was that timeline in Ohio's selection, Palmer?
It has to be this fast because we don't have time for business as usual. The types of threats that the United States is facing, that our allies around the world are facing, the fact that we are predicted to run out of munitions within the first 8 days of a potential conflict with China mean that we need to hyper-scale our manufacturing of these type of weapon systems.
But why Ohio? Was this the only state that could guarantee that timeline?
I think that they were the state that gave us the best shot of hitting that timeline. Look, we've really engaged well with Jobs Ohio, with a lot of the politicians here, not just at the state level, but the local level. You know, like you said, we're hiring 4,000 people here in direct jobs, a lot more jobs than that in an indirect capacity. It's the largest single job creation event in Ohio history. It was a state that told us, we have the workforce. We have 1 million people who are capable of working in this facility within a 45-minute drive. We're willing to work with you on higher education to help train people so that they can come in and they can work with you. Our customer in the form of the United States Air Force obviously has a huge presence here in the form of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. So really all the stars align to make Ohio a great place for us to do it and to do it fast. And speaking candidly, as someone who is from California, there's some states that are really good at pushing you out and slowing you down, and there's others that are great at pulling you in and speeding you up, and that's what Ohio was.
Let's go there. Was California at any point a likely candidate, and if not, why?
There was a 0% chance at any point of Arsenal 1 being located in California. There's a lot of reasons for that, but I mean, you can go through them. It's the high cost of living. It's the very high energy costs. It's in some cases the unreliability of the energy systems. It's the unreliability of the state politics and the worry on the regulatory side. And just, you know, the reality is California has enough money and enough really successful companies that they don't really have to worry about a company like mine, a company like Anduril. The jobs that we are bringing here to Ohio, they are material and they are something that the state really, really cares about. And it doesn't hurt that one of our co-founders, Trey Stevens, is a NATO-born Ohioan. I won't say that's why that we made the final decision, but it definitely made sure that Ohio was at the top of the list from the beginning.
What you did say as a company is that it had nothing to do with Vice President-elect J.D. Vance.
No,
that was not a factor.
This decision's been going on a lot longer than that. We're finally able to talk about it today. But I mean, you saw the renders, you saw the site plans. Things like that take a long time to put together. We raised our $1.5 billion round of financing last year specifically to build this facility.
One of the questions from our audience on social media was about the jobs.
Yep.
4,000 over 10 years. There must be a mix of those originating from Ohio, but you must also be trying to attract talent out of state to move here. And I know you'll be spending a lot of time here as well.
Well, I'm definitely going to be buying a house out here. I'm blessed with financial success from my first company, Oculus VR, that allows me to get a place so I don't have to get a hotel room when I'm spending time out here. The thing about, like, yes, we're going to hire a lot of NATO Ohioans. I think we're also going to have a lot of people who are imports who are coming in and adding to the economy here. You look at our headquarters in California, we're about 80% imports. About 80% of our employees are coming from outside of the state into California. And I think that we're going to do, I think we're going to bring a lot of people here as well. Maybe not 80%, but there's going to be a lot of people who are moving to the area, economically building it up.
The supply chain in Ohio is actually very interesting. So you will have use of 2 runways where we are now, Rickenbacker Airport.
That's right.
But my understanding is that, take, for example, a Fury behind us. In some cases, you'll be able literally to take off from the runway, which is just a few feet from where we're sitting, and deliver that technology direct to customer. Explain.
Direct to customer or directly to the action? I mean, so this is Fury. This is our CCA, Collaborative Combat Aircraft. It's basically an autonomous, loyal wingman fighter jet that can fight alongside F-35s and other fighters that the United States and our allies use. But you're right. The goal here is that we can manufacture these aircraft at scale, thousands of these fighter jets here, and then we can either fly them directly to the customer or in some cases directly to the theater. Of course, probably with refueling stops along the way. But that's what we did during World War II, and that's what we plan on doing it again.
Ohio's quite busy. Intel has a fab going up.
That's right.
Quite nearby. Do you see that as a sort of competition for talent, or do you see it as value add to being here?
It's both. There's value added, and of course, I'm probably going to hire some of their people, and they're going to hire some of our people. That's just the way that these things always go. What you want to try to do is make the area more attractive in general, right? Like if Anduril was here and we were the only company that was in the area, it'd be harder to get really, really world-class people to want to stay in the area or move to the area because we're the only game in town.
Right.
When they know that it's a healthy ecosystem of career choices, it's a lot easier to get people to come, even if you do manage to keep them around.
Palmer, when I spoke to Ohio Governor Mike DeWine earlier, I asked him what was the sort of single biggest factor that gave him conviction about you meeting your timelines, not just for manufacturing, but your commitments to this state. In my career, with respect, every sort of industrial technology company I've covered, no matter how many billions of dollars they've raised from private sources, venture, private growth equity, have never met their manufacturing timelines. There's always slippage. Granted, the pandemic's been a factor.
Yep.
He said that factor was you and your colleagues. Just from meeting you, you are the point of difference. What can you tell me about how the team guarantees that 2026 timeline?
I think that, like I said earlier, we don't have time for business as usual. Right now, people are predicting that there's going to be a window of opportunity for Xi in China that opens in 2027. That means that you necessarily need to be ready for a potential great power conflict with China in 2027 and for at least a few years after that. So we have to, right? There's no other option. The whole point here, the reason we raised that $1.5 billion round, the reason that we've been accelerating this process, the reason that we're investing in building this factory ahead of the customer actually paying us to do it is because we believe in that timeline, because we have to believe in it. It is critical that we hit it, and I think we will.
Are you getting some financial incentives from the state of Ohio?
Absolutely. They gave us a great incentive package, and that was definitely part of our decision.
What's the value, and what does it look like? What is its composition?
I am going to let somebody else tackle it because I can tell you it's in the hundreds of millions versus the billions that we're going to be putting in.
Intel got $2.1 billion.
Yeah, I think they did a better job negotiating than me, maybe. I don't know. But I'm really glad that Intel is here. They're a really great partner. Obviously, they're making a lot of U.S. semiconductors that are competitive with the things that are being done in other countries, and it's critical for our products that we have advanced semiconductors that are made in the United States. So I'm really glad that they're down the road from us.
Palmer, it's important to have some extended time with you to talk about Arsenal One. I think one of the most common questions I get from the audience, even if they're familiar with Anduril, is what does Anduril actually do? Sure. They might know you as a weapons manufacturer, or if they are a bit more researched, autonomous defense systems.
Right.
But could we just simply talk about what Arsenal One is going to manufacture and where that technology will be sold and deployed?
The way we look at ourselves is as a defense product company, not a contractor, but a product company, meaning we take a product company approach. We decide what to build it, how to build it, when it's done, and we invest our own money into making that happen. Then we sell products to the customer. Now, we work hand in hand with customers through that process. It's not like I can go off and build a Batmobile and try to sell it to them because I think it's cool. But I think that I'm sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Second part of the question is what specifically will Arsenal build?
Building? So the things that we're building, they're driven by what our customers need, but we are investing a lot of our own money in them. So obviously we're building Fury, our autonomous fighter jets. Behind you see all three of the different Barracuda cruise missile families. So the Barracuda 100, Barracuda 250, Barracuda 500, autonomous swarming cruise missiles. We're also going to be building a lot of our ISR drones. We're going to be building a lot of our mobile command and control systems here. And we're even going to be building some combat heads-up displays here. I think you're going to be hearing some news about that soon.
There is a timeline. It doesn't sort of all happen at once. So initially, the first phase of the facility, I think, is about 5 acres.
That's right.
It goes up to 500 acres. What does that process look like, building out what you call hyperscale defense or weapons manufacturing?
The process is building this place up in a way that only a madman would. Our COO, Matt Grimm, has been kind of the hero of the day in figuring out how we're going to go from a very, very minimal footprint today to 90 football fields in a very short period of time. And it wouldn't be possible if we didn't have really close cooperation with the local authorities on the permitting side, on the power and utilities side, on the logistics. For example, rail logistics, air logistics, road logistics, being able to move things in and out of this facility very, very quickly. If everybody wasn't on board and moving lockstep together, this timeline would be absolutely unreasonable. And you keep hitting it, but I will note, we have competitors who are telling us that
yes,
we are not going to hit these timelines and that we are madmen. And so, look, anyone could be wrong, but I would love to do a follow-up piece in maybe 24 months and see if we're bad men or not, or if we pull this.
Okay,
if we pull
24 months from now, you and I will sit down again, but in an operational facility is what you're saying.
We'll sit down in Arsenal 1 and we'll have fighter jets coming off the line is my prediction.
The other big question I get for you, direct from the audience, is how they as retail investors can participate in this.
Well, as you know, the United States government has taken a very un-American position in saying that you need to be generally an accredited investor to invest in companies like Anduril. I think that's totally bogus, and it's anti-American, especially because the only thing that being an accredited investor means is you have money already. I know a lot of people who have money who you would never say they're accredited to do anything, and vice versa. That said, we are on a path to being a publicly traded company. I think that's an important thing. I want us to be accessible to the American public. I think that it's good for people to be able to invest in American defense companies, not for them to just remain private forever. I'll take an ideological stand there. I think that is a good thing for the country. It's good for us. It's good for our customer. As for when that happens, it's hard to say. We don't need to IPO because we're doing really well. We're winning a lot of contracts. We're making quite a bit of money.
We doubled last year to about $1 billion.
That's the rumor. That's the rumor. Things are doing really, really well. So we don't have to IPO to raise money to keep the company going. I want to do it at a time when the markets are favorable, when people understand what we're doing, and I also want to prove out some of these big bets. I don't really want to IPO when people are saying that we're madmen and trying to do the impossible. I want to do the impossible and then say, look, we did it. All you have to do is bet we can do it again.
You will be doing business with somebody new in the Department of Defense. President-elect Trump's pick is Mr. Hegseth.
That's right.
He was not one of the names that you had in your head when we last spoke a few months ago.
That's right. You'd asked me about it, and I said that I knew the names. I heard a lot of names coming around, and that I was a big fan of all of them. And you're right. He wasn't one of the names that I had heard rattling around.
May I just make a point that, look at his CV. He doesn't have experience running an organization of that size. You want change and improvement in how America does business with the private sector in defense. So what will your approach with potentially Mr. Hegseth be, and what do you make of him?
I think that there's a lot of credentialism that is being levied against him that is totally unfair, and I personally empathize with him a lot. I started Oculus VR when I was 19 years old, living in a camper trailer and putting myself through school. And I didn't have the experience to be running that company. And I grew it to thousands of people, an international business shipping millions of virtual reality headsets all over the world. And I didn't have the experience to be running Anduril either. I had absolutely no business running this company. People could have made the exact same criticism. What the hell does Palmer know about the military? What the hell does he know about national security? Yeah, his heart's in the right place, but he's just not qualified. The leap from where the people say his credentials are and what he needs to do is a much smaller leap than the best leaps that I've seen people make in my career. So I'm never going to be the guy to say, oh, I don't think he's qualified. No, he's way more qualified than I've ever been to do any job that I've ever done, and I'm doing a pretty good job of it. So I mean, God bless him. I think that he's a great pick. I read his book, The War on Warriors, so I was familiar with him, though not his name being in the arena. I think he's going to kick ass.
Palmer, let's end on President-elect Trump, but in the context of Arsenal 1, you still believe change is needed in that military-industrial complex procurement process.
Absolutely.
What specifically needs to change over the next 4 years to allow for Arsenal to be a success?
I think that I think Arsenal 1 is going to be a success. The amount of change we've already had in the system, I think, will allow that. I don't think that we actually need radical changes in the system for Anduril to do very well, but for our country to do well, for us to build the national security apparatus we need to move quickly. We need to take targeted risks. We need to get more companies into defense manufacturing, and that includes companies that are not currently defense companies, getting big tech in, getting little tech in, getting a lot of our industrial providers in. That is how we won World War II, was leveraging the whole of the nation. I think that that's the only way that we are going to win in the future as well. And I think that the people who are being brought in have exactly that mindset. We need to spend less, do more, and do it with the right things.
Palmer Luckey, Anduril co-founder.
Always a pleasure.
Chief Technology Officer here, Columbus, Ohio area, the future site of Arsenal 1.